Hi, my name is Richard, and this is how God changed my life. For most of my life, up until the age of 25, I lived a pretty standard normal life. I worked hard and became self-employed. I had a great hobby in rollerblading, traveling through different parts of the country and different parts of the world with some really great friends. We worked hard, skated hard, partied pretty darn hard too. I had money, friends, and was very successful with the ladies. My thoughts on there being a God or someone up in the sky was something I hadn't really thought about too much, to be honest. And my life was that of one that I thought I didn't really need there to be a God. One thing kept crossing my mind in life, especially after a hard night's boozing. Is there more to life than this? I wasn't really asking the question for some higher meaning or anything, just a curious question. Just the boozing, partying, different relationships, and well, a lot of other things. Was this all that life was about? I met a girl who I soon discovered to be the one. Turns out she was a Christian, which I was totally fine with, but her view on life was much different to mine. 8 years later, and we are happily married with 2 beautiful children, but that's another story. Her belief in God was something that made me very curious, so after around 3 years, I decided to go and visit her church one day and see what it was all about. We arrived late and walked straight into the worship time. I saw people singing and dancing. Some people were even jumping. My instant thought was, these guys are nuts. But I stayed anyway. At the end of the meeting, I met a couple of guys among a lot of other people, but these 2 guys are now my closest friends. I heard stories about how God has saved them, and now they have a relationship with a living and active God, and they speak to him and hear his voice. I was shocked and deep down, a little jealous. I mean, if this is true, is it something that I could have also? A relationship with God? So me being me, I decided to explore. From that day, from attending church and hearing people's stories, I decided to speak to God. I said something along these lines: God, if you're real, like people say you are, I want you to show me you. I will pursue you, I will give you my all, but I want you to reveal yourself to me. 3 weeks passed, and I was convinced that God was real. Something was stirring inside of me that I can't explain, but I had this peace in my knowledge of God. And the day came that I gave my life to him. I can remember a guy being at the front of the church asking if anyone wanted prayer. It was for something specific, but I can't remember what. But I felt a kick up the bum, and God say, go. Strange, but I went anyway. That day, I made the best decision of my life, and that was to follow Jesus. I knew at that point that the way I'd been living my life was not what God wanted for me, that his plans for my life were so much better. I knew that God was calling me into greater things. I'd like to say it was all plain sailing from that point. I was met with quite a lot of strange questions from people and friends I had told, while some were cool with it. I had questions like, how do you know that Christianity is the only way to God? Why do you feel you had to follow Jesus? The Bible is just a book of made-up stories and things similar to this. I'd never experienced any objections or even mockery to any other decision I'd made prior to this one, but for some reason, this made a real effect on some people. It made me think a lot. I had this incredible encounter with God. I felt the peace and grace of God flood my life. I experienced complete change in the way I acted and thought about life. But yet, these questions got me thinking. Can I prove with evidence that 1, God was real, and 2, was Jesus real? Did he die on the cross and rose again from the dead? I've studied Christian apologetics for around 4 years now. I've studied evidence for the Bible, evidence for Jesus and the resurrection. I've studied different worldviews, and I've opened myself up to Christianity not being true, and through it all, I found a deeper, more passionate life filled with awe of who God is and what he has done for me. That Jesus did come to this earth and lived a perfect life. That he took all my wrongdoing and all my shame and guilt and died on the cross. The most humiliating and painful death, so that through my belief in him, I may be granted a relationship with the creator of the universe. What I love most about all that God has done for me is that it's good news for all. You can have this relationship. You can know the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. The Gospel of John says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. I encourage you, if you are listening today and have been impacted by the way God has turned my life around, then get in touch. We'd love to chat with you about the absolute love that God has for you. Thanks.